Hello me, it's me again. So today I wanted to try something a little bit different. I look like this because I no sleep and lots of coffee, by the way. This is the face of madness. And I ran a Twitter poll and asked what people wanted to see next in my next video, and the the winner was a video on guilty pleasures, which is something that I have blogged about before, talk about quite extensively with people, just because it's something that I have a bit of a passion for, and so this video is called Kill the Guilty Pleasure. I've got a list on my laptop here of the salient points I wanted to talk about. Salient points, what is wrong with me? I'm a terrible person. So, working in a bookshop does mean that I hear people say the word guilty pleasure quite often. Things like, oh no, I love reading teen fiction, it's a proper guilty pleasure. Or, oh, yeah, no, that book's complete trash, but I still love it, it's a guilty pleasure. And you know what? I think it's time to do away with that. Why feel guilty for enjoying something, assuming that you are not harming another person or an animal, because that's just being an arsehole. Like when I was a teenager, a lot of my friends were really into punk music, and so for me, liking bands like Green Day was a guilty pleasure. They were a mainstream band, they were way too poppy to be cool, and I liked them anyway. And even as I developed in my music tastes, I started to like bands like Fall Out Boy and recently Paramore. Those are bands that, for my friendship group, would have been deemed a guilty pleasure. But why? Why is it deemed a guilty pleasure? And why should a pleasure be guilty? That's the thing. Why should you feel bad about liking something that you just like? Basically, what I think it boils down to is that writing something catchy that gets stuck in your head, that's not easy. People think of it as being the lowest common denominator because it appeals to so many people. But, people have based amazing careers on that, on just being able to make lots of people sing to their music. ABBA, or Elton John, or Stevie Wonder, who are all brilliant, by the way. Kate Bush, oh my god, I love Kate Bush. Writes catchy songs, there's nothing to be snobby about towards that. That's a really hard talent. I can't write any music that appeals to like millions, if not billions of people. Why do we look down on something that has a wide amount of acceptance? Everyone eats food, but we don't say, oh yeah, no, food's proper guilty pleasure. So many people like food, it's not cool, but I do kind of like it as well. No, it doesn't work like that. And now what you're thinking is, Darren, this is a booktube, you're now talking about music. Music is my other big love in my life. I could start a whole different thing about music, so let's get back onto books. Writing for mass appeal in books is not easy. Writing those million copy bestsellers isn't easy. Not everyone can do it, and yet we look down on the Nicholas Sparks. John Green gets a lot of flack for kind of writing slightly two-dimensional, trashy characters, but people are buying them and people are reading them, and that's important. And who are you to say you shouldn't be reading that, you should be reading this? That's not how it works. That's really snobby and kind of Orwellian, which, oh my god, I said Orwellian. I don't even have an English literature degree. That's terrible. So, for example, I despise Dickens. Never been able to get into Dickens. He was paid by the word and wrote more words than he needed to get his story across to make more money. That's how it feels to me. He feels overly wordy. But on the flip side of that, I really like Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare's really intelligent, I think he's really funny, I think he's quite crude in places, and I think that works for his audience. So I would never consider myself a snobby reader because I don't like one of the greatest English writers of all time, but I also like one of the greatest English playwrights of all time, because there is no such thing as a right or wrong opinion on what you like to read, just as there is no right or wrong opinion on what music you like to listen to. Basically, reading is done for your own pleasure. If you want to read because you get something deep and intellectual out of it, then that is great. Go forth and read whatever it is that really stimulates your brain and gets you thinking. If you like to read because it's escapism, because it's something a little bit lighter and a little bit easier than the real world, then great. Go out and find your escapism. The last thing we need to be doing is telling people what is right to read and what is wrong to read, and you should feel proud for enjoying the things that you enjoy. Okay? I like what I would acknowledge as some pretty trashy YA fantasy romance stuff. And I'm fine with that, and when people are picking it up in the shop, I get really excited, I run over, I probably look like a complete freak because I'm an allegedly grown man who really likes these kind of quite simple but really easy to read books. And for me, reading just shouldn't be a chore, and if I am struggling to read a book, if I feel like it's trying to teach me a lesson or to make a big point, that's when I switch off. I'm trying to think of an example now, but I really can't. But there have definitely been books where I've been like, there is an agenda behind this, and you're trying to push that on me, and that probably works for someone, but I'm not that someone. And I'm fine with that, and I think people should be fine with that. We shouldn't be looking down on people for the books that they are picking up, basically. So we should always be trying to read widely, because the more you read, the more people you're connected to, the more emotions that you get to see, the more viewpoints you get to understand that are outside of your own frame of reference, and that creates empathy. And the more empathy you have, the more love you have for other human beings. And that's magical. The world is full of too much negativity. There is war, and there is famine, and there is poverty, and there is hate every single time you turn on the news. And by judging other people and commenting on what they read and what they enjoy, we are adding to that, and we don't need to. And that's really upsetting. We can be better than that. So we should be. We should stop judging people based on what they like. By being snobby about what people are reading, we are creating a gulf between human beings. We are creating space where there is moral superiority and people feel inferior. And that's just wrong. And we have the power to make that go away by just saying, hey, that's not for me. I don't enjoy that thing, but you do, so that's great. You go and enjoy that, and I'll enjoy my thing, and I'm sure there's something that we can meet on later. If there isn't, it doesn't matter. We're all people at the end of the day, and we have a lot of power to make our society a lot nicer to be in. Maybe you went to university, maybe you studied literature, maybe you feel that means you know more about literature than other people. You probably do, but you don't know more about enjoying something than other people do. Only I know what I enjoy. That's just kind of how it works. Not only I know, because I tell people about it all the time, but you know what I mean. You can't pick what I will enjoy for me without just on the basis of what you think other people should enjoy. It's quite hard to describe. You can tell people you might enjoy this because you liked this, but you can't say you should enjoy this. Doesn't work like that, and it shouldn't work like that. And that's just how it is, basically. And we can stop that. We can stop that by thinking, hang on a second, am I being a bit of a snob here? Before you talk. So, in the words of Community's Abed Nadir, I guess I just like liking things. If you love something, go stand on the rooftops and shout about it, and you will find other people who like that thing too. If you hear someone shouting about something that you don't like, then that's fine. Go find people who are shouting about things that you do like, instead of pulling that person down for liking the thing that they like. That's easy to do. Finding other people who like something that you like, That's a little bit trickier. But ultimately, love makes this world a much nicer place to live in, and we need to be putting more of that out and putting out less hostility and less judgment. And that's basically it. That's the end of my rant. Cool. And look, this advice comes to you from a Pokemon gym leader, official Pokemon gym leader. So you know that it's sound advice, so listen to me.